Okay, welcome back. Now, now we are done with the kind of brief introduction about the fundamental forces we have. We'll try to focus on the electricity as our main target of this whole course. Now, the question is, what is the reason behind this type of interaction? Now, if we remember what we did in physics 1, we said like there's a gravitational force. And what's the reason behind this gravitational force? It's the mass. So because we have a mass, we start to feel what? The gravitational force. And because of that, we are connected to the Earth. The Earth has a mass, and we have a mass. And because the Earth has a large mass, that's why the gravitational force coming from the Earth is strong to keep us like connected to the Earth. And so the reason behind the gravitation force actually is what? Is the mass. And as I said, like if you want to apply that to the case of our interaction with the Earth, we can use the M2 to be like the mass of the Earth and the M1 to be like our own mass. And R will be like how far we are from the center of the Earth. And in this case, we'll be able to find the gravitational force according to what we did in the physics 1, mechanical physics. Now, and also we did the like further type of calculations, and we defined the gravitational potential. We'll almost do the same thing for the electricity. But the question is, what is the reason behind the electric force? If we ask the question for the gravitation, we already know the answer. It's the mass. Now the question is, what is the reason behind this type of interaction, which is the electric force? Now the reason behind this one is what we call the charge. So the charge is the type of property that will make the particles create and have this type of interaction. So there is something we call like the electric charge. And this is something, by the way, I believe like we all experience in everyday example when walking on a carpet on a dry winter's day, and when touching the door knob, one often experiences a spark. This, by the way, process is called charging. So what's the charging here? We define it as charging is negatively charged electrons move from the atoms and molecules of the carpet to the soles of our shoes to the body. So because of this type of mechanical interaction, like mechanical means like friction, this type of friction will create a chance for the electron from one material, and in this case this material is the carpet, to move from the carpet to the shoes, and from the shoes to our body. Now why this is happening? It's because of the atomic property of the carpet, which has the kind of the ability to lose electrons. So electrons can transfer from one material to another material, and when this atom or this material loses electrons, these electrons will go to the other material. And now this is what we call like the charging process. In general, all of the atoms are neutral. Now, but in some type of under a certain condition, this type of thing could change. Means like atoms could gain electrons, other atoms could lose electrons based on their atomic property. And these type of materials will create what we call the charging. And then what will happen here when our body gain these electrons from the carpet, now our body will carry what? An extra charge. This is that's why we call it like here what? Charging. And because of this extra charge, now when we touch the doorknob, and why the doorknob here? Because the doorknob, as we will see, it's a conductor, which is a type of material that is very sensitive to the electricity, and it will give like a direct interaction with the electric material and with the electricity, and because of that we'll start to have what we call spark. I will show you here a very simple type of demo that will explain to us this type of thing here. Now, if you look at it here, if I move, like this is like, imagine like you have, you are moving on the carpet, and because of this type of mechanical touching, like friction, that will create energy that will be given to these electrons in order to leave the carpet and transfer to the shoes. From the shoes will be to the body. Now our body now, they have what we call this extra charge. So our body is charged, and that's what we call like the charging process. Now the moment we touch this doorknob. Now why the doorknob here? Because it's a conductor. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now this is what we call, here is the charging. So if you think about it here, again, this is the type of spark that we are talking about. So this is the spark. And by the way, this one, go back to, also the similar phenomenon involved is the lightning. And we are all observe that during the winter and during the raining season. And this is almost the same type of idea. The charged object get close to other type of material, and the discharge process will happen. We'll talk about that, by the way, later on in more details. What is the certain condition to have this spark, especially when we talk about the capacitors. Now, that's the type of thing that we should learn about. So there is special type of property that will create this kind of interaction, and this property is what we call the charge. Normally objects around us do not seem to carry any charge. So most of the material, actually not most of the material, in general, the materials is what it used to be neutral. They have equal number or equal amount of positive and negative, and that's why we call it what, electrically neutral. So any atom, which is the unit of any material, is formed by an amount of positive charge and amount of negative charge, and these two amounts are equal. So if you add the positive to the negative, the sum will come to what? To zero. That's why we say like this is electrically neutral. Negative charge. Now, what is the reason behind the negative charge? It's what we call the electron. And what's the reason of the positive charge, or the source of positive charge? It's the proton. I'm talking about the atoms and the material, not subatomic type of particles. Here we talk about the material. Now, how can we create positive, negative charge? It's by moving the electrons. Now, it's very important to keep in mind that the nucleus, it's the place that you can find the proton. And this nucleus, it's not easy to take proton out of that nucleus. So you can't create positive charge by adding protons. That's not happening. The way we can have positive charge is by what? Removing electrons. So negative charge is an excess of electron. Positive charge is a deficit of electrons. So when you move electrons from an atom, that will make the positive charge more than the negative, and that's why we have what we call positive ion. So creating positive charge is by removing electron, not by adding proton. The protons, we cannot play with that because it's inside the nucleus, it's rigid, it's not easy to remove proton out of the nucleus. This is very critical. So negative charge, an excess of electrons. Positive charge is a deficit of electrons. Now, if we rub a plastic rod with a fuel, the rod will become charged. If we bring two charged plastic rods together, they will repel each other. I will show you in the next video a video that will explain to you this type of thing. Now, rubbing means you give the reason for the electrons to move from one material to another material. Now, why we are doing this kind of frictional type of touch between the two materials with the rubbing thing, that will give like energy to the electrons to move from one material to another material based on the ability of the atoms to lose and the other ability of the other material to gain these or host these electrons. And that's how we create what we call charged object. So, and also different type of material like glass, when we rub it with silk, also that will create what we call a charged object. We'll show you this in the next video in order to explain this type of topic.